Diving for Glory Champions League finale.
Diving.
What do we get called them?
Diving for glory. Diving for glory. Diving for glory.
Yo, Diving for Glory back at ya. Oh, switch that up, man. Diving for Glory, motherfucking Champions League episode 12. This will be our final Champions League episode of the year because our final episode will fall right after the Champions League finals. So we are looking at semifinals today, man. Don't forget, Diving for Glory, we post every Monday. There are only 4 episodes left. We're going to post those every Monday. No more Thursday episodes, Friday episodes, whatever it is after today. And, man, we're going to jump right into it, man. Sir Solomon, what up?
That's good.
So, 2 wonderful matchups. I don't know about wonderful, but they're fucking amazing at the very least. And we're going to start you off on Tuesday's matchup, which is Liverpool hosting Barcelona at Anfield for all the cookies.
They can't make a comeback, can they?
What? Barcelona with a 3-0. Should have blew that 4-0. Thanks, Dembele.
They blew a lot more than that.
Well, you know, that one thing would have helped a lot.
I mean,
because if Liverpool had needed a 5th goal, they'd have got it.
They looked more likely that they were gonna get it. I think Barca was happy it stopped at 90 minutes. They did not look likely to get that 1 goal.
All right, so let's talk about it, man. As most people around the world, if you don't know about the result, then you've been living under a rock. But let's talk about it, man. So we come out. I think you and I talked about first thing, lineups off top. We talked about on the regular episode what Barcelona did over the weekend, basically playing their C team,
which proves to be a terrible miscalculation. So the first leg, you remember, they played the same starting 11, and around 1 hour mark, they needed to bring in Nelson Semedo to support Sergio Roberto, who is not a defender. He's a midfielder. So he's getting worked on that side in the first game. And then when they brought Semedo in and Sergio Roberto moves into midfield, they got a little more control because all the midfielders that they have out there are not creative midfielders. They're more like defensive / box-to-box effort defenders, midfielders.
I don't think I even noticed that he literally did the same exact sub both games at the same exact time.
Yes. And both games, they worked. Like for most of it, and Nelson Semedo is a natural defender. He's not as quick going forward as Roberto would be, but it's a much more solid, you know.
And it really makes you wonder, like, was Valverde watching the same game that we did the first time? Because
they played Dembele and got injured in the weekend, and that really neutered all ideas of speed that Barca would have. So in this game, once Dembele goes down and Coutinho being a non-factor, the most hated man in the state of Catalonia, basically, why does Malcolm not play? And you can't give me the he's not good enough shit, because after the situation has changed, so you bring in your speedy winger early in the game when your opponent is chasing it, because there's a lot of counter-attack opportunities. Because they didn't have that, the counter-attack was nullified, so Liverpool could push all the way up and just swarm them for most of the game.
That's what they did.
So after you go down by multiple goals, now you bring in the speedy winger, which now they're sitting back and just picking you off. So that Like, you know, it's not like the whole dynamic of the game has changed by the time he makes his subs. He's not, like, he's beyond reactionary. He's too late.
He's set in stone when it's all said and done. He
If
had
you
his lineup
are-
set in stone. He had his sub set in stone. And real quick, the one thing I just wanted to say was that it was as if he did not watch the first match, because I think everyone would agree that 3-0 was a flattering result for Barcelona. Liverpool just weren't clinical. And it's like, dude, you made no adjustments.
So, when the chips are on the table, everybody reverts to who they are, naturally, you know? And when you're a conservative, slightly above average manager, the Champions League, this is where managers make their name, earn their actual pay, you know? In the league, you're not out tacticking people if you're the Barca coach. You're just putting out your team, you steamroll motherfuckers. It's when you get to the Champions League later rounds that you have to actually match up tactically. And Jurgen Klopp motivated his team way better, got his team in the proper position, got them to press in the way that Jurgen Klopp likes to press. And on the other side, if you look at Valverde, because this is a game where there are two teams, I get it. Liverpool executed a beautiful game and came at him the whole game. But Barca, for the first time in recent history, played both Champions League semifinals without a true creator in midfield and basically a flat back 4-4-2. And this is not, you know, like Valverde represents everything moving away. Like when you have a player like Messi, and everybody says, like, why didn't Messi do more? He is accountable for not doing more. But at the same time, his style, as we've seen the whole time, he plays with other players. 1-2s make him more effective. How many times over the past 2 games did you see Messi surrounded by 4 Liverpool players with nobody to pass it to?
Yeah.
And
make these runs, and then it'd be like no support.
There needs overlaps, guys coming, you know, square, overlap, drop, everything. Like this kind of movement that Barca used to show no longer is on exhibit over the last 2 seasons. So basically, the gist of it all is Valverde needs to be so
kick rocks. He needs to fucking kick rocks, man. So the lack of let's also, before we get to Liverpool, let's look at Barcelona and also say that they haven't been like major players per se in the last few transfer windows. They sign a player. They don't do mass. They don't sign like a bunch of players, or at least it hasn't seemed, or at least not major players. They're signing fucking Kevin Prince Boateng stealing Malcolm just because.
Those always happen. Like the Kevin Prince Boateng is part of like filling up a squad. So every season there'll be a couple of there's always been that. He's irrelevant in this talk. But the thing about it is, when you're paying 100 mil on those guys, and you're investing it as the president and the people that are recruiting players, when you're investing it in a player that doesn't fit your system, like they sold Neymar for 200 something mil, and they spent it on Dembele and Coutinho. Okay, Dembele, he's young, he's coming together. Let's say it's worth it. With the Coutinho money, Liverpool got Virgil van Dijk.
Yep. And Alisson.
So
yeah, know exactly what they were doing.
Like now you don't have anybody that plays how Iniesta used to. Not to say that like as good as, but like even style wise, like their midfield, they're playing 4-4-2 in big games in Barca now. This is rudimentary backwards shit, and none of them in the 4-4-2. Coutinho is a non-factor, and then you have Arturo Vidal, Rakitic, and Busquets.
Yeah.
Any game that you see Rakitic as the major player coming out of midfield, Barca are struggling.
Yeah.
And he's good when everybody else is moving the ball around, and he gets those gaps and gets the goals, whatever, a la Frank Lampard. But you're not trying to have Rakitic being your playmaker.
Should have started Arthur, in your opinion?
Absolutely, over Arturo Vidal.
Over Vidal, move up Coutinho and do the 4-3-3.
He tried to control the game by physicality. when the game needed to be controlled by actually holding the ball, which is the Barcelona philosophy.
Yep.
And this guy has completely removed all traces of what it meant in terms of win, lose, or draw. You play your style. There are tweaks to it, but like it's a possession-based, pressure-based style. Not like you're going to sit back on a 4-4-2 like you were a 1972 North England club. This is outdated football by a manager that was clearly in above his head.
All right, and let's switch sides and talk about Liverpool real quick. A couple of, just what you would consider role players and even a fringe player were the main players here.
Yeah, and when Sir Alex Ferguson was running Manchester United, rest in peace, Manchester United, there would be a lot of guys. One is Kiko Macheda, who came out of nowhere when he was 17 out of the youth squad, scored 2 goals, didn't even play enough games to have a Premier League winners medal, but his 2 goals against Aston Villa basically end up being the difference in Manchester United championship. Just like that, this is one thing that Jurgen Klopp has managed. When you look at even Matip and Lovren and a lot of the guys on the team, he uses his squad, and when it's time to call them up, they're fit and focused.
And they're coached up, and they can play multi-positions.
Exactly. And in this particular game, they executed to a T what he asked for. They were more on in the game. Barca got the 4th goal. It's fucking hilarious that the goal that eliminated Barcelona from the Champions League was because they're just sleeping.
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from Liverpool, big heads-up play. That's beautiful to catch a team sleeping like that. For sure. And if they hadn't, they would have scored some other fucking way because they were just that dominant in this 2 legs. But attitude reflects leadership, and Liverpool have a leader that is clearly identified, that the team rally behind and will go through walls for. And Barca, have had it at previous times with Pep, with Luis Enrique for a little bit. But this guy, you can tell the way the heads dropped and everything, there was no confidence. So and what's the point of a manager if he can't rile you up when you're going down,
So we know where Liverpool go from here to the final. But I look at this Barcelona lineup, I see a bunch of 30s.
Rakitic is rumored to be going to Inter.
But I'm just speaking just general age.
Yeah, it's a very aging
you got
squad.
A coach issue. You don't have crazy depth. What do they do here to resurrect?
I think even irrespective of what they do on the market, Sergio Roberto and Carlos Alena need to be given a extended run in the midfield. And Frankie de Jong
with Arthur.
Arthur needs. So the thing is, Arthur passes a lot, but he doesn't create goal type situations a lot. So he, in an ideal Barcelona team, is a solid squad player that plays a lot of games, but not as dependent on his control
he's like
as
19,
they were
though,
this
right?
season.
He's like 19 or 20 though. You gotta give him some burn to see what he can do.
He got a lot of burn
to develop him.
He
for
played
sure.
most of the season, so I'm just saying he'll be a nice compliment to have in a deep team, a la how Juventus used to have their teams, and they could just plug and play a lot of guys depending on how they want to play. But the fact that, and that this I say with all the love because I really enjoy watching him play, and I think he's a great addition. But he shouldn't be an everyday starter at the very least at this point in his career, and you need to have options. When he's not starting, it can't be we're not playing passing football anymore. You've only had the guy for 10 months. How are you so dependent on him? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is this going to get ugly for Barca in the next few years? If they don't... And considering the board and the way that the board functions as well.
So you can ride Messi's brilliance to league championships, and they've been doing that, but the president, Bartomeu, who happened to stumble upon the job by being there at the right time when people got arrested and had to resign, he's proven to be quite inept. So I anticipate, because Valverde should have been fired a year ago, he'll be fired by the end of the season. But the question is, are they going to cock up the replacement? And I have full confidence that they probably will.
They probably will. yeah, for real. Disappointing, man. Very disappointing, especially having the love for Barcelona. I know that you do. They're the team that brought me to football, and to lose especially to Liverpool, is tough. But let's definitely shout out fucking Liverpool.
Big shout to Liverpool. Like, it's to me, is not particularly tough to lose to Liverpool. That more so than like to lose a 3-goal lead. But the way they played, they should have never been down 3, and they outplayed them. And this is football. They're so beyond deserving of being in this final ahead of Barcelona that I'd even be disappointed if Barcelona had scraped and stayed close in this game and something. But they don't deserve to be in the final.
Shout out to Tits and Ass. Trent Alexander-Arnold. TAA. I was dying to say that.
Tits and Ass had an assist?
Yes. Yeah. That dude was fucking nice, though. He's young as hell, too.
I think that Klopp fucked up on the first leg. Not
we talked about
him.
It was foolish.
Yeah, but again, Klopp did his rotation well. He managed to get Joe Gomez in, and etc. It's won him the tie, so you can't really go back and be like, yeah, that was terrible.
Imagine Coutinho leaving Liverpool because he didn't believe in the project, didn't think there was and then 2 years in a row they're in the Champions League final. I know that got a sting, man.
I don't think it's just that Liverpool is there. If he had even played a decent game and they had passed him, you could justify it as, I'm in Barca, I got this huge whatever, But he is constantly getting booed every time he touches the ball by home fans.
By home fans, yeah.
He is living the nightmare as the money that he got sold for is going out and having the time of their life. You do deals with the devil, man. That's how it rolls. Hey.
Bartomeu is the devil.
But it's pretty poetic justice in his sense.
It is.
But don't feel too bad for him because he's probably going to end up in PSG or something.
Oh, for
sure.
You
know what I'm saying? So.
We see how they like to end their Champions Leagues in similar fashion, so he'll be used to that. But with all that being said, man, like we said, Liverpool moved to their...
enough to have a big gap that he could fill there.
Oh, yeah.
He could play in their system where the midfielder is supposed to actually get the ball and run it up 20 meters by himself and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. He would actually be really nice for them. Yeah, I agree.
He just doesn't like to let go of the ball. He's not good enough to keep it up.
You're going to have to do that, bro, at PSG. Liverpool advanced to the final for the second year in a row, as mentioned, with a 4-0 over Barcelona. Anfield, historic shit. On the other side of the table Wednesday, a little more open coming into the game, but after the first half, you would have said this is a wrap. So 1-0, Ajax have the away goal. They have the advantage. They're coming home. And, man, they just, I don't know, osmosis. They absorb the Spursy themselves. I don't know what happened here.
I don't think it was a Spursy as much as... They're not. Neither team is as experienced.
About to go in.
Neither team is as experienced at that stage, and we've talked from the earlier rounds about how Ajax need a lot of chances to actually put it to bed, and they miss. And in the first half, for example, if you were talking earlier about the Dembele miss from the first leg, in the first half, after the game was 1-0, Dusan Tadic did a spectacular move and dropped Toby Alderweireld, missed the shot. A couple of those, where Hakim Ziyech shot a couple of feet off.
In the second half, too. He missed a couple.
Exactly. And in the second half, it's the semifinals. So, Tottenham now down 3, have to go for it. And Ajax couldn't.
The thing that in watching Ajax this year, it was just man, when they're on their shit, they are amazing. But because probably they're such a young team, they're not that experienced in this turn, they are so sloppy. And that second half, dude, they just kick the fucking ball around. That's all you need to do. 35% possession in the second half. I just saw them kick the ball away too much, just fucking
too
run
early,
the clock.
too early, and
all types, man.
even to run the clock, like it seems like their defense is basically like who's the guy? De Ligt. De Ligt is a monster, but you can go after Daley Blind. Like we know that, right? And they don't know how to go back into their shell for a little bit and just absorb pressure. And at this highest level, if you can't do that, when Spurs decided, shit, it's time to fucking score, they fucking scored. 3 times.
3 times.
By the same guy.
Dude, but look at this, dude. They had more big chances than they had shots on target in the second half. They had 6 fucking big chances in the second half.
How many did they get it on target?
5.
I'm telling you. Like,
shit, and they scored 3. What the fuck?
Yeah. Like it got wide open, and the thing was how Ajax kept playing and didn't change their style, played right into Tottenham.
Right into
and Mauricio Pochettino is one of the best in-game adjusters of.
And to your point, we often talk about it, like the difference between, coaches that actually coach their players up and make them better. And I think I was surprised. I text my Tottenham informant. I was like, hey man, Wanyama again? You cool with that? Like, what's up with that?
And he could have got 2 yellows in the first half.
2.
Like, he could have, like.
And I'm glad that Pochettino saw what I saw. It took him off at half.
That's what I'm saying.
Changed the game.
That he realized that is as much football as, and even the first game, he had him, and then until somebody got hurt, and Sissoko came on is when the
Vertonghen got hurt.
And how amazing is it that Sissoko is the guy that calms this team?
He
going.
holds that ball. His hold-up play, he makes about 10, 20-yard runs in the middle of the field just to move the ball a little bit. Like
physicality of his defense in midfield.
He looks like that player from that Euro tournament. Like, that's how he's been looking the past few months, or maybe even most of this year.
This season, I would say, like, if there's any most improved awards, like, he has to be given it, like, hands down.
So Lucas Moura with the motherfucking hat trick.
Yeah.
Kill him in the 95th minute.
Yep, his first 2 goals came 4 minutes apart, and then they had him at 2-3 for eons from the 59th minute until the end. Got to injury time. In injury time, Ajax got downfield, and to your point from earlier, could have just ran it to the fucking flag and just got like manhandled over there, little sexual harassment, and then get a corner. But no, they decided they wanted to miss a shot. And Tottenham just turned it right back. Danny Rose busted a move. Like the play went all the way from the defense. And it seems like both the first and the third goal, because the second was like off a rebound. He scrambled it, did some beautiful footwork and scored. But the first and the third goal are the same run with the same finish by Lucas Moura. And at this level, like, you don't usually get to bust the same move on people twice.
No, not at all. So, one of the most unbelievable, like, from a team that looked like they were out of the group stage to the finals. It's amazing stuff. And you've been watching football a little longer than me. Have you seen, for me personally, the only run that comes similar, not to Tottenham, but to the entire tournament, because this has been a wild tournament, is the year Chelsea won it.
Yeah, that would be the best comp, because Chelsea was, I think, in
like 6th place in the league.
6th or 7th, yeah, at the time.
And they had a bunch of comebacks and a bunch of fucking crazy late goals.
They got. I don't think there's. These are like, this is a spectacular run, especially when you consider that they have in the last 3 transfer windows, they only got Lucas Moura.
We clowned them so hard.
Everybody did.
Everybody did.
And now people are sitting here like, I don't know how you can get past Manchester City and stuff. And it's like, well, if the dude with no money got to the Champions League final, like, with less money than City, you should be able to, like Liverpool is showing, they're investing with less money than City, and you should be able
Leicester
to
City.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be an 81-point season again soon.
No. But to the point though, I mean, there's always that argument about City and the money, or Chelsea and the money, or whatever it was. But apparently, man, you can do without that. You can overcome that. I mean, football is just too unpredictable.
It definitely makes it easier, but it's just as important to invest in the person that's preparing your team, your manager, as it is to invest in these players, especially in the Champions League. Pochettino, Pep, Klopp,
and what we can talk about with these teams, and what I think all these teams have in common, are vision. They know what they're doing.
Direction.
They know what type of players they want. Manchester United, on the flip side, like you said, RIP, they have spent probably about as much money as City. And they have a shit team. They have the weakest team of the big six at this point, probably by place. Obviously.
City's winning, yeah. Because City's winning. City's either winning or coming second in the league. Liverpool and Tottenham are in the finals. Arsenal and Chelsea are in another final. So yes, Manchester City, you're fucked. Like this is
United,
like they had.
United.
I mean, Manchester. They had this Instagram picture of Pogba and Ole crying, and it's like, "What's up, Manchester?" Because all these teams are winning,
Yeah.
And it's funny because Manchester was the first team to take advantage of that backdoor loophole that UEFA gave to get from Europa to the Champions League.
Oh yeah, that's right. United did. Yep.
And 2 years later, watch them be the only team that is got no chance of.
Did you see the article on ESPN that talked about the different scenarios for the Europa League spots? Depending on how it plays out or whatever, I think if like City and Arsenal, like City win FA and Arsenal win what's the name, that United would be in the fucking qualifying round of Europa, and they would have to play 6 games starting in like the early July to get to the group stage of Europa. That's fucking crazy, man. A couple other scenarios, they're right to group stage.
Yeah, it's basically what Burnley had to go through this year. That almost got them relegated. Like if you remember at the beginning of the season, they were like so super fucked. And in addition to Manchester United players will probably be taking a 25% cut in salary due to non-involvement and money going down. And then when you throw that in is
6 more games. That's crazy.
And might not make it.
So yeah, no, hell no. I don't even know if it's in their interest to make it.
So International Champions Cup or Asia Tour, cancel them.
Yeah.
Which I think that you need to
Chelsea
get hit like that.
Chelsea has a U.S. game before the Europa League final. Probably. Fucking crazy. And also, Sarri said they play 61 matches this year. And I've never really sat back and thought about the amount of matches that teams play. I have, but I've never, 61 is a ton for a fucking sport as physical as football.
Yeah, but
it's not basketball. It's not hockey or baseball.
Well, if you really want to get even more technical about it, you should add about 5 or 6, 7 games for what you do for your national team.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You know what I'm saying? So,
it's crazy for the players. I've always thought that.
That's what I mean. So, anyways,
all right. So that is June 1st, a Saturday. Man, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch that shit because I'm gonna just be mad. Either way.
I watch that shit. I'm gonna watch the shit out of that shit.
Liverpool, Tottenham. Amazing. I can't even believe that. Your early thoughts, we'll obviously look at it before the match, but it's a lot of question marks here. Do you play Kane? Do you start Kane? If he's healthy, what do you got? Salah and Firmino hopefully coming back as well. I would assume they'll definitely play.
Salah is coming back. Actually, he's back.
He'll play this weekend.
Firmino is not playing this weekend, but he should be back. Probably Kane too, but yeah, having him available is a game changer. And to your point, Kieran Trippier. Did you see his post game talk about Harry Kane?
No, what did he say?
He's even not playing. He's the one that in halftime hyped us for the second half.
Really?
Yeah, all the doubt that there's been, and he was like, "Nah, you don't understand. Harry Kane is the man here."
That's dope. That's real dope.
You know what I'm saying?
And we often
and you
talk
saw how he even like was showing support at the end of it and everything. And I think Harry Kane is pretty much close to the perfect Spurs player between him and Son. I think.
and we talked about it a number of times on this show, and it's amazing to me to see teams just say fuck it, but like the locker room guys are so fucking important.
And
so important.
If you want to go back to locker room guys being important, Genie Wijnaldum, who he plays, but even when he's not apparently on level with Mr. Henderson and stuff, is a big presence in the locker room.
Yeah.
And when one of those kind of guys comes into a game and scores for you, like as a sub,
yeah,
like it's you can't really calculate the impact it has on. You know, it's different from just some random guy scoring. It gets them hype. You know?
So quick question, and then we'll move on real quick to Europa. Do you start Kane if he's healthy?
Yes. If you've looked at the past 5 or 6 Sun performances, sir,
he's been mediocre.
Yeah, like Robin can beat a couple of the robbers, but when you get the main guy, Batman has to show up and help us. You know what I'm saying? And he's been mediocre. He's had a mental breakdown and got sent off in the league. So there's, you know.
So you don't play Son?
No, you do. I'm saying you play both of them, and Son works better off of Kane. He stretches the ball.
So the hat trick guy goes to the bench.
Depending on the formation, yeah.
I personally,
you have to be that. Like, there is no such thing as like you have to play your most solid team, and the hat trick guy gets the bench, okay, or the guy that's constantly leading the league and scoring for you goes to the bench. Like, you have to make the call, and on the day he will. But everybody's on the block for that game because you're playing formations.
My personal opinion is that you don't start him, and you do bring him on as a sub, potentially a halftime sub.
It depends how.
And depends how it goes in that first.
No, and even more so though, it depends how early he starts practicing with the team. Like, because it's the end of this month. Like, there's another. However, like if there's another 2 weeks and he's already like fully practicing, then I would really just consider him
I think
on the day of.
And I think it's definitely fair to look at this game in a bubble. And I think we all know that, you know, history, you know, obviously means something, but it really doesn't. But I look at the history of Harry Kane being out of injuries and coming back for Spurs, and it's always been a struggle for them when he comes back.
I get what you're saying, but they practice together every day. And on the week of, Mauricio Pochettino, if he feels that he's the one with the sprightliest legs and Harry Kane is hot, he's not going to be like, yeah, we regularly struggle when he's here. When your striker looks like he's ready, he fucking plays. That's football.
That's fair.
He even brought in Llorente. Like, that's how desperate he was. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a simple thing. Like, they had Lucas and Son and Llorente on the field at the same time. You take out Llorente and like you have Son.
That dude is like their B player of the year. I swear to God, like he was a laughing joke for about the first half of the year until he got forced into action, and he's won fucking games for them. It's fucking ridiculous.
I think initially they bought him for the team calendar, for the handsomeness, you know. And then like they're like, oh, yo, can you play? He's like, dude, that's my career. They're like, oh shit, we thought you were a model.
Oh shit, man.
They have this whole thing on The Guardian where they talk about how beautiful him and Morata
are. That's funny, man. All right, man, move along really quickly, man, because as I texted you this morning, man, English domination in European football for the first time in my life. All 4 spots in the European finals are
stop trying to call that
up.
Shit. London domination with a side of Liverpool. Nothing happening in Manchester.
Yeah, fuck you, man. We gotta let other people get a trophy every now and then. So we'll take the rest. But with all that being said, Chelsea and Arsenal advance. Chelsea, potentially Hazard's last game at Stamford Bridge is how they're hyping it up with the final decisive penalty kick. They advance, and what's the name go on an offensive tear?
Kepa saves the one with his dick.
Did he?
Penalty shootout.
Yeah,
Kepa was there.
No doubt.
No.
That's to you, sorry. Take me out.
Yeah, he raw dogged it yesterday. He's like, baby, don't worry. We ain't got to pull out. I took a fucking penalty to the nuts today. birth control.
So crazy. Valencia, one of the most stout defensive La Liga teams, get rocked for 7 goals over 2 legs.
Yes.
Arsenal just fucking.
We were making the running joke, me and you, about how Valencia had scored 6 over the weekend, and we're like, oh man, they finished their goals. They finished up all season. They've been just winning 1-0 and like getting nil ties, and they scored 6 right before this game. I'm like, nah.
They dildoed their hymen, didn't they?
Yeah, they dildoed their hymen away.
Told you, man. I'll be putting that shit in my head. Boing! Right moment.
And that just happened.
So with all that, the one thing I want to ask, I was thinking about, is Chelsea's the interesting thing here. So as much of a soap opera as they've been, as down as they looked this season, they're potentially going to finish top 4, finalists in 1 cup, quote, quote, and then, quote unquote, and potentially Europa League champions. Is that success? Is that, considering the team, considering their situation, that seems relatively successful to me.
It is. It's relative. Like you said, it's all relative. And for the issue that everybody has with Chelsea is that we're looking ahead. And Hazard is most probably, and by most probably, I mean he's probably right now looking for a house in Madrid. He's going. Unless the Court of Arbitration of Sports lifts your ban, which probably they will, as there's been with the precedent set with the Spanish teams. Now,
shortened though. They only shortened those, right? They didn't lift them.
Yeah,
it was that weird thing where they could sign the players, but you can't start until later or whatever.
Anywho, he's gone. Now you have a Gadget fucking team that he carried.
They're going to be in Champions League next year.
It
with
can't be
this
overstated, and they're going to have to call back that loan army.
That's a good point. I always forget about that. That's a good point.
They got 30 transfers out there just floating around. But I don't know until we hear what the Court of Arbitrations
for sport.
But even without that, Abramovich, ever since they put him on the terrorist list due to the Russia relationships, whatever, he's really not been investing a lot. So unless they make big money investments in a lot of positions and then the coach, it's just going to be bleak for them, man.
True. I agree with that, and I think there's no doubt about that. I guess what I was looking for is the assessment, the end result. It's hard. It's you can't judge a president in the middle of his presidency. So, like I said, let's just assume for the fuck of it, they win this Europa League. Your evaluation of sorry. When it's all said and done, he went through some shit, and they're gonna come out, like I said, top 4, possibly Europa champs, 1 cup final.
I think that Sarri should get shot just for moving Kante out of his position.
Man, for real.
I don't give a fuck if he wins everything. He's still fucking one of the best players of his generation. He just decided to make him some dude. And for that alone, I would like to personally slap him every time I see him. It's as good as never.
Of course, he's just not sorry, but Conte's just the nicest guy, man. So he just. Does
he's
job.
thriving. He's doing his thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jorginho was especially terrible in the second half of that game. You know how he's a guy that can only make 5-yard passes? He was missing 5-yard passes. A new low was reached by Jorginho. And then the Ross Barkley substitution is we need a biff. Let's bring on some big dude to fucking intimidate these.
Oh man, Arsenal versus Chelsea for the Europa League. How do you feel about that? Early thoughts.
I think Arsenal's forward line can go after fucking that joke of a defense. Rudiger is out for the season pretty much. So Christensen got injured in this game, but I think that's a good thing for them. Now they have Gary Cahill, who just this week they were doing his farewell because he's not going to be back for Chelsea next year. And Alvaro Morata in Spain thought that he was retiring and was like, "Yo, it was awesome working with you, bro." And this, and they had to. So that's
still missing shots
against an Aubameyang Lacazette attack, which Unai Emery finally decided, like, you know what?
I should do this more often.
Let's play two strikers.
I mean, he's done it. He's done it through the year, and they're successful almost every time.
Every time. Like and actually, like, that is when they're successful.
Yeah,
this is when they do that. Actually,
their link up, their connection is sweet, man. They're
like two homies that love to play with each other, and both are fast as fuck. And
their skill set kind of complements each other. You know
exactly.
what I'm saying?
Like Lacazette is very much the number 9, and Aubameyang causes havoc all around, and they play beautifully together. And that's the only real chance of success that Arsenal has.
You favor Arsenal at this point?
Yes. Because I've been missing a lot of my predictions, and it would be nice to jinx them also.
Yes.
So, Arsenal, I'm full on board.
Let's
go!
I still have my fingers crossed that this has been the ultimate setup for the greatest Spursy there ever was. And that they miss top 4 because it's still possible and lose. That means Liverpool wins. But Liverpool can have that fucking trophy, whatever. Yes, these are my hopes. Revenge is a dish best served cold, my man.
I guess, but think of this aspect. I don't know that many Tottenham fans, so I'm pretty neutral towards their team. If Tottenham beat Liverpool and Chelsea beat Arsenal, oh my God, I could talk all year to Arsenal people. Because they would...
It would be ugly. That would be rough.
So the year that they don't even make the Champions League would be the same year that Spurs won it.
Whew. Man, that would have to hurt. Well, that's fascinating.
Oh, and Arsenal has never won it.
Never, yeah.
So they would be the only major London player that doesn't have a Champions League to their name.
It's fascinating that that's the final, man, that one of those teams is going to hoist that trophy. I have nothing else for this, man. How about you?
I hope that it continues in the insane vibe that we've been getting, and we just
good games.
We get a couple of good games, and to be honest, in the competitions they're playing, all 4 of these teams are fully deserving. So I just want to, I just hope that the season finishes off the way it's been. This has been one of the best Champions Leagues, one of the best Premier League seasons we've seen, and I just hope that we just keep going.
Last question. I meant to bring this up earlier, but of course the narrative will be, you'll hear it a lot, because a few years ago it was German football's taking over, Dortmund, Bayern. A lot of other people, including, Ulay Onis and people like this, they'll look at this like, see, we are being threatened by Premier League money. And whether or not that's the actual case, that's going to be the narrative. Do you feel like this is a result of this influx of money and influx of players, of top players, yes, into the Premier League?
Yes. And I think that next season, Wolves and a bunch of other teams, like Spain recently is the only one that's dominated on both fronts. Germany has done good when Dortmund and Bayern are good at the top, but Spain with Sevilla was winning the Europa League as Barca and Real Madrid were winning the Champions League. So Supercopa for 3 years straight was an all Spanish affair. But the influx of money that the English teams has spread their wings to where Nuno Espirito Santo comes in from there's only one Dr. Nuno.
So we can effectively, when it's all said and done, crush the bullshit about the English schedule then. The Cups and all that. I know you have.
Thought that the Christmas break was an overrated thing, because there's been times where there's been 3 English teams in the Champions League semi-finals out of the 4, when Chelsea and Manchester United got to the final against each other. Yep. And it's just when they lose, it just seems like the laziest excuse to me. Because
for sure.
I've seen times when they've won through that and stayed fresh because of it.
And you play your squad anyway. You play your rotating squad anyway during those games. So it's not like you're trotting out your top 11 every game for 3 weeks.
Exactly. And if you look
whatever.
at Tottenham, Liverpool, and Manchester City, which are the three teams that have been most successful this season. Tottenham because they're in the Champions League final, and the two they're also vying for the league, right? And all these teams use the full squad.
I will also mention one random thing is that all 4 of those teams got knocked out of FA Cup early. No semis. I believe quarters maybe for Tottenham.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a reason of their success, but I know that it just shows you how hard it is to get a treble.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hell
Like,
yeah.
people like start the season off, they see a couple of 70 million, 80 million players, and they, let's go for it. And it's like, nah, there's a reason shit is historic.
Yeah, and that's
Fucking hard.
Yep. And so you see, and to that point about the money, Premier League, you see a squad like Manchester City on the verge of doing the unthinkable. Like, yeah, I think the money is a major player here, and I think the other layer here is that it's made the rest of the league so strong. And we talk about it like outside of
That's the thing about England is that the money is spread.
and you are facing. They may be shit teams overall, but they're still better than the shit teams in the other league. At least at this point, to me.
That I wouldn't go as far as to say. They always get credit when they beat a big 16, whereas if in Spain it happens, the coach is like, the coach needs to get fired. But like nobody ever says like, look at Huesca with their fucking nice display and beat Madrid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
it's true.
Like they never get credit for when it does happen. Like if you look at Manchester City and Liverpool's point total,
Oh yeah, for sure.
they beat the shit out of the league.
Yep.
Like, these guys were not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for a majority of the season, these two teams were Madrid and Barca for the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, it's all about how you narrate it and present it. Because, like, the level of dominance those two teams showed this year was a 2-horse race like Spain has.
Oh yeah, they're 20.
And yet it's like,
20
oh my God, let's take some time out, even though two teams have 98 points to shout out this good league that is challenging everybody. And you can't have it all, you know? Like, they want credit for everything.
But no other league has six teams like that. And so, I mean, even outside of that, Liverpool or City, you're playing 10 games a season versus top level competition. I mean, and that, what I'm saying is that I think that, like, as we talk about, like, playing the games and playing well is probably more important than actually being healthy or whatever the fuck it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? You get that experience because every week is a monster, and every week is a monster in EPL because of that money, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher.
Like, I mean, and we talked about, like, City, maybe more so, but Liverpool, like, a lot of those wins, these are hard wins to get, man.
I mean,
like,
I understand wins are hard to get as a professional team, but two teams just are about to touch 100 points.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like we cannot overstate how hard
Crazy
we
that is,
cannot call it the hardest league all the time, and like look at two teams that are about to crack 100 points.
Before last year, the 98 was the record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the gap at the bottom, if you look at Huddersfield, they are the second worst Premier League team in history. Fulham was relegated before March, and the third team was relegated with like a couple of games left.
Yep.
So, like, the bottom 5 or 6 were actually terrible this year.
Yep.
Like, they did pull a couple of results at the end after it was all said and done, but, like, it was an especially bad team at the bottom. Usually it takes you about 40 points to survive. It didn't take even close to 40 points to be a surviving team. So, I agree with your assessment about most of the league, but the bottom 5 or 6 teams
Those are awful.
this particular season were very, like, and yes, they got some points over some choky ass teams right at the end, but let's not let that distract us from the fact that they were basically like whores.
And last thing is always, narrative is narrative. The negative word narrative is, it's never actually one narrative. Like, it is definitely multi-layered. And so the money is an issue, and like, let's just be straight, it was a fucking lot of luck on both sides of
It takes
all
a lot
these
of
teams.
It takes a lot of luck, but at the same time, as the Premier League financial deals keep going, they will do more.
The gap, yeah, for sure.
You know?
Absolutely. Word up. That is our European finale. It's all over. We'll see y'all Monday for regular league football, and see you on June 3rd for the D4G finale, where we will cover the Champions League and Europa League finals. Corciola, Sir Solomon.
Out.
Diving. What do you think about them? Diving.
He's not a man. There's nothing more to say.
Diving.
Glory.